In this video, we're going to talk about how to make evil energy AN lines for any application, and we're going to make them specifically for our AE86 Corolla.
Stop it. We're not saying that on camera.
The reason why we're making AN lines for this car is because I upgraded the fuel system on the AE86 quite considerably. There's a new JSP fuel rail there. I used the factory fuel dampener, upgraded the fuel pressure regulator to a radium, and then got a fuel pressure gauge. And when I did that, I raised the pressure in the fuel lines quite considerably. The feed hose from the gas tank to the car actually sprung a leak. This is the factory feed hose here, and you can see it's kind of a little old, it's a little like rusty. These fittings here are supposed to swivel and move, and I was getting a little bit of a pinhole leak right there in this factory line. And I could have ordered a new line from Japan. It's about $100, shipped it overnight or whatever it is from eBay, and put that on and we're done. That would have meant the Corolla would have been down for another week or two at least for that thing to get here, plus I'm out $100. So what I did was I said, hey, F it, I'm gonna take matters in my own hands and make my own AN lines for this car. I went with Evil Energy from Amazon. There are way higher quality lines out there on the market. And before all you comment trolls light me up that say like Evil Energy is junk, you can get Earl's lines better, there's radium lines, there's all vibrant lines, there's all kinds of lines you can buy. And yes, I agree with you, but some of us like to build cars on a budget. Not everyone can afford an AN fitting for $25 like you would get for Earl's fitting, and sometimes the package deal from Amazon for like $30 for all things does sound pretty appealing. If you are gonna go with Evil Energy, I'll drop a link in the kit that I bought below. I got 10 foot of AN line. This is not E85 friendly line. This is just rubber line that's coated with steel braid and nylon, so E85 will deteriorate this. I got fittings that go with it. Does that mean Evil Energy fittings are junk, or are they worth buying? I'm not sponsored by Evil Energy. I just know that a lot of people buy this stuff, and if you are gonna buy this stuff, I'm gonna walk you through how to make these fittings work. Evil Energy is a little finicky compared to everything else, and I really wanna show you that pro tip. First and foremost, if we're gonna make a new line for something like this, you can see it's gonna be a very short line, right? I'm gonna have basically here, a turn, and then here. And Evil Energy gives you in the kit a couple options that allow you to kind of size up and measure out what you need here. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do, no matter what, with whatever you make, you're gonna have to measure how much line you need. And the line that we're gonna need is gonna be the distance from this coupler to this coupler, not this. This is a hard line here that's basically on the whatever you're gonna attach it to. But we only really need this much line. Now, you don't have to make an AN line. You can make a rubber line. You can put an AN fitting here with like a push lock fitting, put a rubber line on, and you're done. But if you're gonna be making AN lines, especially Evil Energy, measuring the distance to as accurately as you can is gonna make a huge difference. So it looks like I'm gonna need like that much line, about 4 inches of line. Now again, this is a crude measurement. Please, if you're gonna do this, be a lot more accurate than I am, but I'm only doing this so I can get to making the line instead of like spending hours measuring. So let's say 4 inches of line. Now that you got your measurement down, it's time to cut the line. They give you the line already pre-taped at the ends, so the ends don't fray. And what I like to do is I like to go off the taped end already, measure down 4 inches, and put a new tape mark. And the reason why you want to tape the lines is because when you cut them, they're going to want to fray. They're going to want to do stuff like this, and this can ruin your install day very quickly. So what I like to do is I like to throw on some electrical tape on where I'm going to cut and tape it to that spot and then cut on that spot. All right, I wrapped this in electrical tape and I measured about 4 inches to 4 inches down. Now we're going to make a cut through this electrical tape here, and you have many ways on how to cut this line, and I'm going to walk you through them right now. The first and most common way to cut line like this is to use a set of cutters, cable cutters, and cut along the 4-inch mark. And I'm going to cut with these cable cutters. Now they're not sharpened. And yes, I know there are line cutters you can buy on Amazon. They literally have a giant blade and they cut it. I've used those before. I broke those. If you like to cut line and you're a pro at making this stuff, then go ahead. But I'm gonna cut it with a cable cutter because this is a little bit more accessible. Most people have this in their garage, and I'll show you what the cut looks like when you cut this with a cable cutter. All right, let's get this here. And we're gonna go, and let's see if we can cut it down. It takes a long time. All right, we just cut it with the cable cutter, and you can see there's a little bit of a fray going on here. Some of the cables aren't very cleanly cut, and we got ourselves a little bit of a situation where it's a little messy. What I like to do is I like to use an actual cutting wheel to cut my lines, and I'll show you the difference here. Now here's the difference. This was cut with the cable cutter, and this was cut with the cutting wheel. It's a lot cleaner. There is some frays on there. This has a lot of frays, and you're gonna require a lot of cleanup. Even all the metal casing here is a little cattywampus. The cutting wheel is just a lot cleaner. Before you try to put your 4-inch AN line in any fitting, first and foremost, you gotta clean up the tape, so remove the tape. Another thing you're gonna have to do is, if you're gonna use the cutting wheel method, there's a lot of debris that ends up in there. And what I like to do is I like to spray inside the tube some sort of cleaning agent and then blast it with air. All right, so there's the tube there. Let's get some cleaning agent in here. And the cleaning agents that I like to use are definitely flammable, and that's because this is your fuel line after all. So if there's some residue left in there, I want it to just combust in the engine. I'm not going to use like silicone or anything like that. I'll use something that's super flammable. Now that we have this all filled up, let's blast it with air. Now that we got the line all cleaned up, it's time to put it in a fitting. And AN fittings come with two ends usually. It comes with the part that goes on the line, which is this guy. And then it comes with the part that goes inside that, which is here. And this would be a straight coupler. Now there are other kinds like this that would go in there. That's a 90-degree bend. There's also like 45-degree bends that you can get. There's even 180-degree bends. But for the sake of this video, we're gonna use a straight one. The best way that I found to get these in, start this with your hand first. And you're gonna see videos of guys putting in AN fittings where they say push and twist. Well, with Evil Energy specifically, I know it's a little different than everybody else. It helps if you kind of rock it around and like walk it like this when you push it in, instead of just push in and twist. Now, if you had like a Earl's line or like a Vibrant line, it's probably a lot easier. It goes in, you kind of just twist and you find the bottom of the fitting. But these, for some reason, require a lot of kind of walking around. So I like to put it in like so, and then kind of walk the fitting around like that, back and forth while I'm twisting. And that seems to get it started on the inside there. Then I put it inside the vise. And if you don't already have one of these, get one that has like a fitting holder on your vise so you don't mar up your fittings. And continue to walk it in while you push, like that. Just kind of walk it around. And then you're gonna, it's working, and then you're gonna see it drop in. Just kind of walk it around. And you can see it's starting to move its way up the fitting all the way to the end here. You might get a little bit of fray here because, again, these aren't like the best quality nylon coatings. But as long as this goes all the way towards the end of the fitting while you're walking it in, it's working. Now again, if you had like an Earl's or like a Vibrant, all you have to do is push and twist and it goes in. But these require a little bit more finagling. For some reason, that technique works best with Evil Energy, and we've hit the bottom. Great. You can see we got the line all the way at the bottom of the fitting there. Now here comes the part that makes an AN fitting actually so good. Let's put it in the vise in the little clamp holder here. And then we're gonna use a straight fitting and we're gonna put it inside here. Now what happens is this little shaft here goes inside the rubber and it expands the rubber against the fitting and prevents it from leaking, this little thing. What I like to do is I also like to grease up this little thing inside here so it goes in the rubber hose a lot easier. You could use the same grease or oil or cleaner you use to clean the hose, but I also like to use a little bit of oil, and I have leftover break-in oil here. So I usually just kind of dip the tip in the break-in oil in the cap, and then I can insert it. That way it just makes this procedure a lot easier. All right, you can see there's a little bit of oil on the tip there. And the thing is next is you put that in the fitting. It should kind of force its way in. And then you have to hold the bottom of the line to prevent the line from popping out of the fitting and push down to get this in to the hose end here. And once it starts to bite, you'll feel it go. I'm just using my hands here. Once you feel it bite, it's time to switch over to a wrench. All right, so we got the wrench going. It's the right size. Those teeth should help pull it in. Now I'm holding the bottom of the hose here so the hose doesn't pop out of the fitting. That way it just stays nice and tight. There we go. It's starting to get real tight. You can see, I gotta tighten up my vise. Crescent wrenches work just fine. Don't get me wrong. These are gonna work just fine. However, there is a specific AN fitting wrench you can get. And let's get this going here. Boom. Now I can't spin it around as freely as before, but I can continue to tighten this all the way down. All right, we got one side of the fitting made. Now when you're tightening this down, you're gonna wanna tighten this guy right here, not this one. This is the part that goes to the male side. You just wanna tighten this down. And all those OCD folks out there, a lot of people like to line up the fitting or the hose end with the actual twisted part. I'm close, but I mean, this will do. You can feel the tension in the hose. It's very tight. Now we're gonna go ahead and make the bend right here. The process will be the same. Just remove the tape that I put on there. We can find the end of it. All right, not so bad. And we're gonna put a new hose end on here. Just like that, it's gonna go in. And remember, with Evil Energy, it likes to be walked around the fitting. For some reason, just walk it around to get it started. Walk it around, and honestly you can do a lot of this by hand, but you know, sometimes you need a lot more torque, and you can get it going, and it's now started in there, and we're going to finish this up in the vise. All right, we got this one in. You just got to walk it around. You might get some nylon that kind of pulls up off of it and frays off a little bit, but really what's important is that you get the rubber hose inside here. Now, before we put on the other fitting, it's nice to clean this out just one more time. There could have been debris that fell in there when you were walking it in, because you are twisting into a fitting. I'm definitely not going to put this in the car unless we clean out this hose. All right, now it's a lot cleaner on the inside. Now we know we were trying to make it fit with this fitting here. So we're gonna put a 45-degree bend on there, which is this guy. And the process stays the same. I like to dip the end of this in oil, dipped in oil there. And then I like to insert it that way. Then you can get it started with your hands. Should start to get real tight, and then let's put this in the vise and finish it off. And so we just use our old wrenches here. Again, if you have an AN wrench, that'll make your life a lot easier. We're gonna keep going here, and with that we're done. You can see the Evil Energy bunched up a little bit here with the nylon coating. None of the metal actually made its way up, just the nylon. That's kind of the byproduct of using Evil Energy. Is this line gonna hold? Yes, it's gonna hold. It's fine. It's still an AN fitting. There's still rubber all the way to the front of this fitting. There's still a shaft in here pushing the rubber against the walls, making a seal. Is this as high quality as some of the other brands out there? No. But for those of you like me who are a little bit more budget minded and want to get something going, some of you out there may not run this on your rig or your car, especially if you got like a 2,000 horsepower hot rod and you're doing 60 psi of fuel. But if you're doing like 3 or 4 psi, or if you just want to clean up the lines in your engine bay, or you just want to make sure things are uber tight on your engine bay instead of using a rubber hose, AN fittings are a great way to go. All you have to do now is pair this with some sort of male end. Here's a great male end here. So this is an AN line, this is a push lock line, and these two are both -6 fittings. And so we can go like this, tighten it down. It has a nice O-ring on it, and then we can add another rubber line here. So let's say you have a fuel pressure regulator like I do that only has an AN line out. So you would put this AN fitting on here, then you can make this junction here to go to rubber hose back to your fuel return system if you don't want to cut up the hard lines on your fuel system. Either way, there's a lot of options here. It is tedious, it takes longer, it's way more badass looking than rubber hoses. These fittings aren't the best. The line isn't the best quality. As you can see here, it's fraying a little bit, but it's gonna work. And for my application, that's fine. All you're gonna need if you're gonna start making AN lines is you're gonna need some wrenches. Crescent wrenches are my preferred choice. There are AN wrenches out there. You're gonna need some sort of measuring tool. You're gonna need some sort of tape to tape up the lines when you cut them. I like to use a cutting wheel, but of course, if you're strong and you prefer to use snips, you can snip them. There's also wire cutters you can get, and bolt cutters and cable cutters you can get. Tons of options there. I still like to use this guy. And then that's about it. There's going to be a lot of trial and error. So if this is going to be your first application of AN lines, you can go ahead and start with Evil Energy. This whole kit came with 10 feet of line, a bunch of connectors, and all I needed was some patience in the garage, and we're good to go. Now that I got this sorted, I can move on to continuing the fuel system in the Corolla to get this bad boy running. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we do everything correctly where there's no leaks, and we are on our way. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We're staying in the garage today because we have a lot of stuff to do on the Corolla to get it done. I still have my safety goggles on because I didn't want any rubber in my face. And that's gonna be it for this one. If you have any questions on installing AN lines, or if you're better at this than me, or if you're a pro and you do this for a living, that's great. You're probably way more advanced in this stuff than I am, but this is just how I do it, and it works for me. If you have any pro tips you want to share with me, or if you're also building another ship box and you have a method of how to make AN lines that you like to do, let me know in the comments below. I'm always down to learn. I don't know shit about this stuff. This is just how I would do it. Other than that, we'll see you guys on the next one, and thanks so much for watching.